Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Time+Tide, celebrating watches, wearers, and their journeys since 2014.
Can you believe this? Welcome back, the home delivery watch fair, where in the absence of watch fairs, we have been forced to invent one. And now we're inventing a second one, the big one. It's Baselworld, baby. But before we begin, I'd like to welcome Nick Kenyon down. Nick, come on down to the show.
Oi! I'm actually here this time.
All right, Nick, all right. Nick's coming up later, okay? We're having an easing of restrictions in isolation. We're still in lockdown in Australia, but that's not stopping us from bringing you a virtual Basel fair. Now, if you tuned in the first time to the SIHH edition, and this is how you say SIHH.
Salon International de la Haute Horlogerie.
Parlez-vous français? This is the big one. This is Basel. And this week, Baselworld was cancelled forever. So, to give you a sense of what we will no longer do, here's me walking into Basel. Anyone that's played Aussie rules football will excel at getting into Basel. And this is the scale that we're now going to lack in watch fairs. Now, my reaction to this is sadness. This was a watch fair. This was a world fair on a scale that you would struggle to believe. As you can see, there were triple, quadruple height ceilings, massive booths. This is not going to be the same in Geneva. So for me, it's a sense of a lost world. For you, it's a chance to go there. We commemorate, we document this amazing fair in the next hour of footage. What are we doing today? What are we doing tonight? We're going to bring you over 30 watches from 15 brands, including, but not limited to, Omega, Tissot, Rado, Seiko, Grand Seiko, Zenith, Bulgari, Tag Heuer, Hublot, and even Rolex predictions. We didn't have Rolex releases this year, but we have brought in a team that have got it right more than any other team to show you what could have been from a year that was just quite not. And this time, after a first edition that was recorded on a shoestring, we have a slightly bigger budget. I've been able to fly in my own house band. That's right, Paul Schaefer and the CBS Orchestra. I have one too, but mine's on Spotify because it's now 2020. Thanks, John. John's not really here. Tonight on the show, all the new watches released in 2020 by brands that would have presented at Baselworld. So again, in the absence of a big collective moment, we're making one in this video with well over 30 watches released by 15 brands. As well as that, we have Chris Hemsworth. We have What's in the Box? Part 2. I'm not going to give you any clues at all. We're going to have a sketching class with the designer of the best steel sports watch of the last 5 years. And we're going to have a drinks break with 4 pillars bringing you 2 cocktails. So that means halfway through this show, you're encouraged to go to the fridge, fix yourself something nice for the second half, because by then I get a little parched. Before we get too much further, wrist check. Tonight I am wearing a Longines watch released in 2020, the Longines Hydroconquest with ceramic bezel in a lovely khaki color with an integrated rubber strap. This watch has been something I've been very excited to get on the wrist. Wearing it now, I am not disappointed. And a Coronabeard update. Well, things get spicy here. I actually got in early this afternoon to go and get myself, my situation here under control, because it's been a little raggedy. But when I was at King's Domain in Richmond, just around the corner here, they carry our magazine. We love King's Domain very much. They told me they could do the hair, but the beard would have to remain wild and free. So My beard mentor has moved on from Leo DiCaprio and Revenant to Ned Kelly, Australian bushranger. Look, one of the best things about the first episode of the Home Delivery Watch Fair was the engagement. I asked for it, I got it, I'm asking you again. This time, if you could please list your 5 favourite watches released at Pretend Basel, Virtual Basel, in the comments. Vote or not vote on the Coronabeard situation. Should it go, should it stay? Up to you. But please list your 5 favourite watches of the next hour. And we will, last time we offered a collector's pack, one of each of Time+Tide's magazine. I'm going to remind you of these 2 beautiful things. We just awarded the winners of this yesterday. Congratulations to those in our comments. Today, in Basel, everything's bigger in Basel, and the prize is bigger too. We are offering a Time+Tide travel pack. Now, this includes our famous burnt orange travel pouch, which always sells out each time we replenish it, and a Time+Tide strap changing tool, as well as 2 random straps to take with you on your adventures. There's going to be a Bond in there because I love Bond NATOs, as well as a sailcloth strap. So we have a watch lover's dream travel pack to give away. We're going to give 2 away to people that list their top 5. Don't be shy. I know you won't be. Right, so limber up, because we are going to Baselworld, the biggest watch fair of the year. It is no longer, it's a lost world, but we are going there. Now, I lose my own descriptive powers in this video, which runs on from the little bit you saw earlier. I'm gonna let it run now because I want you to see just how dumbstruck even I, as a veteran of maybe 10 Basels, get when I'm in the big dance. Let's go to that now. Basel, 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 Basel. What is Baselworld? This literally, physically is Baselworld, but what's inside? Let's go and have a look. Anyone that's played Aussie Rules football will excel at getting into Basel quicker than anybody else. Look at the breadth of this hall. This is 141,000 square meters of space. We have 1,500 brands showing here. We have 150,000 members of the public. So it serves the trade and watch lovers who get to walk up and down here, basically have their eyeballs blown away by enormous. I mean, come on. I'm running out of words. The spectacle, the scale, I'm getting dizzy, Marcus. We will walk into one of these booths, we'll handle up to 15 watches in one viewing, and we then write about this, share it all with you, take lots and lots of social media, and then we do it all again. Inside each of these booths, there's an entirely different brand experience. Rolex is full of lush greens and beautiful wooden surfaces. Patek Philippe behind us here. This looks like a mothership. Like, this looks like a world we've yet to discover. I feel sometimes like I'm Alice in Wonderland. Everything is to such a preposterous level of affluence. A wood-paneled workshop. If we move around the corner, so there's a massive whale that's dwarfing us too. You ask, what is Basel? This is Basel. Lights, cameras, action, and coffee. I'm due for my 14th. Let's go. Omega, or as we say in Australia, Omega. Now, there are 3 major releases so far from Omega in 2020. The first, ding, diddling, ding, 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 diddling, ding. Yep, Bond. The Bond watch, the SMP 300, Seamaster Pro 300, is the collection from which this Bond watch hails. And it is an interesting watch on many fronts. It combines the newness of a very modern, very new contemporary watch with some really lovely aged fauxtina, we call it, touches, which is that they call it a tanned color to the lume plots and also the numerals on the bezel. It's a really interesting combination of things here. We have a titanium mesh bracelet with straight end links, which is a very unusual look. We have that lovely tropical matte black dial, which again contrasts and plays really nicely with that fauxtina of the indices and lume plots. So overall, there are a lot of vintage touches here. We have the end links, we have the loom, and we have the modern touch of a titanium case as well. So it's quite light in the wrist. The Bond watch is 14,000 Australian dollars. Up next is the Aquaterra. Now this is a really solid choice for a one watch, or a solid choice as a first good watch, because it has all of this Omega tech in quite a versatile and, wearable in many situations style. So the dial colors are a very lush oceanic type of blue with, again, that horizontal striping or engraving of the dial. And the green is more of an olive or somewhat of a khaki than a forest or a bright green. Lastly, we have a watch that was teased in 2019 with a platinum version that was limited, and now we have it, the OG in steel, the caliber 321. Now this is the Ed White edition. What a watch. This is a movement that in its time was utilitarian, functional, robust. It was tough enough to go to the moon, and yet now this is a showpiece movement. We have an exhibition clear case back so that you can look at this beautiful dimensional city that is sitting on your wrist. It doesn't come without a price. This is a $21,000 steel watch that from the front side is going to look like a Speedy, but from the back side, certainly that's where the magic happens. This is a watch that a lot of people have waited a very long time for. I think you'll have to agree that Omega have executed this to perfection. Some will argue the price for a Speedy, but again, this is a historical movement that has been recreated to almost one-for-one detail and accuracy. It's a stunning watch and a significant price, but what a watch it is. Tissot, well, rules are made for breaking. The Tissot Gentleman with this amazing blue dial was not released in 2020, but we're pulling it up to the class because it is what Tissot do almost without competition, which is first good watches, first good Swiss watches. Do you have a son or a daughter that's turning 18? Because this may be your watch. Let's go through the specs of what this brings to you for a reasonable price. It is 80 hours of power reserve using that Powermatic movement. It is a silicon balance spring, which means that it is more impervious to magnetic fields, such as your mobile phone, such as the magnet in your mobile phone case in your pocket. These things all impact on accuracy. This is a fantastic watch for a really good price. Every time we put this up on social media, we get deluged with inquiries. It is a wonderful package for, again, a price that is going to make it very competitive.
We will talk a little bit about the novelties again, and then I want you to teach me how to sketch a little bit.
It's gonna be a tough meeting, a tough interview.
Longines, we have two vastly different releases to share with you. The first is the one I am wearing. The Longines Hydroconquest, let's just call it green. There are two Hydroconquests that have been released. One is a different tone of green. This is the more khaki variation on an integrated rubber strap. Now this watch is being worn for a very good reason. I love it, and I find that its price point of $2,175 for an ETA 2892 movement for 300 meters water resistance is just super competitive. We take this to a new level. The lugs really curve around the wrist significantly, which reduces the ride, and also that integrated rubber strap is curved, which makes it sit there really snugly. For this watch, I find that it is a perfectly viable everyday wearer. The second watch, the watch in the box. Let's kill the suspense. What we have here is the Longines Heritage Chronograph 1946. Now, Longines Heritage game has been unimpeachable for as long as I've been reporting about watches. How do we count the ways? There have been so many classic releases. This is another really interesting in that it's somewhat of a less vintage rendition of a chronograph. It has bicompacts sub-register configuration at 3 and at 9. We have a perfectly reasonable 40 millimeter watch, which looks really nice with the shirt. Blued hands again, which really amps up that vintage appeal. We have, 30 meters water resistance, so it still has some protection. We have a black leather strap. I've put this on right now, and really, again, what catches the light as you wear this watch is the blued steel of the hands and second hand. 2 features to look out for. One, the Breguet numerals. These are really wavy layback numerals. I love them. They do not hold back. And secondly, the dial, which is this unblemished, slightly off-white color that ever so slightly, ever so gently reminds you of the fact that this is a vintage-inspired watch. The price of the Longines Heritage Classic 1946 is 4,150 Australian dollars. Glashütte Original 60s editions have, let's just say this, they have injected excitement into Glashütte Original as a brand and as an offering. However, it's done so by coming in so hot with those colors. The first 2 really notable 60s editions were in bright, burnt orange, I think you would say, and then a really dark sort of foresty green that had all kinds of, they look like the iris that emanated from the center in a radial pattern. And we actually had footage of how those dials were printed. Quite amazing that it could be achieved with a pad printing style of process. However, forget everything you know about these game-changing Glashütte Original models, because this year we have entirely different presentations of the 60s edition. The dial is very unusual. It is a dégradé dial, which means it changes tone from the outer edge of the dial to the center of the dial, and it also has a sunburst or sunray finishing. So you get a double effect of the changing tonality from outside to inside, as well as this very fine graining that changes the light in different conditions. Now, I'm not going to lie, when I saw the Glacier Blue editions, which I thought were really interestingly captured with marketing materials that had them in like watercolor paintings, it was a really different way to introduce a model. I thought they can't possibly look that mesmerizing or that good on the wrist. And then a good friend of ours, Christian Hagen, managed to, through his wily ways, get his hands on a couple of models, both the chronograph model and the time-only model, to shoot. And wow, they did more than fulfill that promise. They are 2 of the most attractive dials of 2020. We're doing a top 10 later. I might be giving a little bit away, but that we might see one of those models in my top 10. Let's talk a little bit about the movement. It is a clear caseback with a domed sapphire crystal exhibition caseback. The caliber 3952 for the time only and the caliber 3947 for the chronograph, both beating at 28,800. The prices for those models, the time only is $6,700 US and the chronograph is $8,300 US. Well, it is a great pleasure to welcome Mr. Fabrizio Buonamassa Stigliani, head designer. What is your title these days? You're just sort of the man.
My title today is Watches Design Center Senior Director.
See, and I can add another superlative to that. There's been several stories now that call you the designer of the best steel sports watch in 5 years. I don't know why the 5 years comes into it, but I would take that. You would take that, wouldn't you?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We decided to go in the biggest market, the sport watches in steel. And the amazing things around the Finissimo is this one. Each time that you change the material and change the color, the watch changes face.
Yes,
it's absolutely unique. Now, when you have the steel one on the wrist, it looks completely different from the ceramic one, from the titanium one. It looks more bright. You can see in a different way, different finishing, and the design details from the case and from the bracelet. It's a brand new watch.
Great. Well, look, I think we have talked a lot about the Finissimo over the years. I think it's time you just quickly told me how to draw one. Okay?
You have to start with a circle.
Okay, here's a circle. I'm doing a circle.
You have to start with
I've done a circle. There we go. How's that? Can you see that?
Now, with the pencil, it's impossible to see. Maybe you have to use a marker, a black marker, something like that, for example.
Well, I'm just going to have to keep going with this. I got one prop. I'm only allowed two props at my table.
I try to do it with you, and we will see. So you have to start with a circle.
Okay.
And you have to make another one, a parallel one. So the double layer for the bezel.
All right.
So the double circle, and after you have to start to have an octagonal shape around the circle.
Can you see that?
I'm here. Where are you?
Ah, okay. I'm gonna do the same.
Now you have to start to add the lugs.
Oh man, you made this look so easy. Okay. Oh well. You better not send me a bill for this.
I will send you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Anyway, so the watch is almost finished.
Hey, you. Okay. So where do the lugs start? Off the side of the case.
The lugs is easy. Yeah,
lugs is it? Halfway up. Okay. I'm with you.
You have to cut line at 45-degree angles.
Oh man, it's really hard. This is hard. This is really hard.
The bracelet is very easy because it's a rectangular shape with another small rectangular elements on top.
I see. Yep, that's easy. Okay. Well, look, I've already decided that I'm not going to become a watch designer. Fabrizio, thank you so much for joining us. It is a really difficult and strange time in everybody's lives, and being connected with you today has been really nice for me. We took for granted how often we saw each other. I think I miss our conversations. My last question is simply, if you have many beautiful children now across the Finissimo family, if you could choose one Finissimo model to take with you, which one would it be?
Today, if I have to get one, the Satinato, the new one with steel, the one that we presented in Basel, and maybe the titanium one because it's the archetype, it's the origin of this new design story. Which
dial color on the Satinato?
I think these are my two favorite watches.
And which dial color in the Satinato, black or blue? I haven't seen the blue, so.
The blue one is fantastic, but even the black one.
Yeah. Well, look, Fabrizio, it's been wonderful. I'm a little embarrassed. That is amazing.
I give you next time some details of the octo.
There's mine. It's you can't properly see. It's only half.
Not bad at all.
I think I give myself a C for art class. Fabrizio, thank you very much for joining us. I'm so tempted to stay and just ask about all the things on your amazing office. Look, my friend, we will meet again and we will share a drink, and it will be extra sweet, probably because of the Aperol, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. It was a great pleasure.
Jaquet Droz. Now, we have an interesting little quirk here to explain with these two models, which is how one of them is off-centered and the other one in a more traditional configuration. Firstly, though, the Grand Second off-centered in black jade has an Australian connection. This is Australian black jade. But you might notice, looking at this watch, the crown's in an unusual position. That's because the whole movement has been rotated roughly 15 degrees to give it this off-centered appearance, and hence why the crown has moved around that case a couple of centimeters. The second version is the Grand Second Quantime, which comes in 7 different types of Grand Fouet enamel dials. We have in the sub-register there, which is larger than the time register as it happens, we have date and second. Our friend Aldous Hodge wears this watch often, and his criteria for watches is that they must teach him something about the craft, because as a watchmaker, he wants to learn. So props to Jaquet Droz. Breguet. Let's start at the top with this watch that is both extremely complicated and extremely simple in its appeal. The complication is, of course, the equation of time with a tourbillon, which is at the absolute pinnacle of fine watchmaking in terms of what it does. And we can go through, we can read the dial and explain each of these functions. But also, the simplicity is in the way that the new case material and the new colour scheme of a slate grey dial, rose gold case, really warm, chocolatey brown leather strap does to the overall offering. The first version in 2017 had a blue dial in a platinum case, and it was very much in line with the Marine Collection theme. However, this is very much more about the boardroom, about this warmth and this elegance that comes through with this combination. But let's get into the dial and start explaining, as we look at it, all of these functions we have here. Let's start with the quirkiest one. At the 8 indice, we have, in Roman numerals, we have a power reserve indicator. At the 5, we have the tourbillon, of course. I'm just going to ignore that the tip of the date, the retrograde date hand, is the Time+Tide logo for a minute. It looks very similar, which is cool. We also have the perpetual calendar day and month indications up at around about 10 and around about 2. And the big daddy, for me, well, look, many would say that's the tourbillon, but it's the equation of time that always catches my interest. There is a little sun on a hand following the minute hand. And what that indicates is the solar time calculation, which is always different. Very well, there are moments in time when it catches up to and matches civilian time, but it is either ahead or behind civilian time, which is why we have a sun indication on that hand. What a watch. And what a colour scheme. I think this has taken the equation of time from the Marine Collection to a very different place. Up next is the Queen of Naples, which, as you can see, is a character-packed piece for lots of reasons, not least those exaggerated Breguet numerals and those lovely blued Breguet hands. What a coincidence that Breguet has naming rights to 2 of the most noticeable things about this watch. Also, we have a really lovely Grand Fur enamel dial, which is going on the wrist and to the naked eye to be really soft and have quite a nice texture and depth to it. And in total, we have 0.17 carats of diamonds, which are circling the bezel and also in the cabochon of the crown. Heightening the colour scheme of blue on the dial is also a blue alligator strap.